Good morning, greetings, friends, and welcome to The Bright Side, your nutritional program dedicated to the understanding of the vast world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. I'm your host, Pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado. I use nutritional supplements where other healthcare practitioners use toxic pharmaceutical drugs and sometimes deadly medical procedures. If you suspect that there are natural nutritional roads to your health and vitality and well-being and to addressing your health challenges, whatever they may be, but you don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place. As you listen to The Bright Side every day, you are more and more in control of your body. You are more and more knowledgeable, and you know you can overcome any health challenge. That is why we are here every day on The Bright Side, helping clear up the sometimes confusing world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. Over the last 32 years of practicing pharmacy, I have seen drug-free recoveries from diabetes, hypertension, obesity, skin diseases like acne, psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, digestive ailments, autoimmune issues of all kinds, recoveries that by the standards of modern medicine can only be called a miracle. But what is in the world of the body, what is in the world of biology, standard operating procedure. Because the human biological system is a healing system, it's a regenerating system. It is designed divinely to heal and renew itself on a moment-to-moment basis. And while some folks may call that healing, renewing, regenerating system a miracle, it really is just the way the body works. If you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we want to hear from you. We welcome your calls at 844-236-6010. 844-236-6010. If you have questions about the longevity products, longevity business, our Truth Skin Health products, formulations, ingredients, something you may have heard about or read about, or if you have a success story you'd like to share, or if you want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll get your calls in our next segment. We have a guest coming up at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Brian Wilson, author of the book John E. Fetzer and the Quest for the New Age. You may not have heard of John E. Fetzer. John E. Fetzer was a media mogul and also the owner of the Detroit Tigers, and also a philosopher, I guess you'd say, who talked about blending science and spirituality, which is kind of an interesting subject back when he was talking. It's an interesting subject now, but he was talking about it in the 1930s and 1940s. He got the idea about the invisible world having an effect on the visible world, which is kind of what I consider spirituality to be, the invisible world that we can't see from a materialist standpoint. Anyway, he got the idea that this invisible world is much like how the invisible world that we can't see creates radio. He's got the idea that the invisible world creates the physical world in terms of physical well-being. And he talked about accessing divine energy and intelligent energy. This is in the 1920s and 1930s. And he ended up becoming quite a wealthy man and got himself involved with the Detroit Tigers. Anyway, we're going to talk to Dr. Wilson about John E. Fetzer's ideas. We'll do that at the bottom of the hour. We'll get your calls here in this segment, or in this next segment, at 844-236-6010, 844-236-6010. So try to call in early so we can get you in our next segment. All right, I want to finish up talking about, hopefully we'll finish up anyway, talking about oxaloacetate, OAA, we'll just call it, so you don't have to deal with the pronunciation. It's a little bit intimidating. Oxaloacetate, it's a type of acetate, and acetate is a type of acetic acid, and acetic acid is a short-chain fat. That's how we got started talking about all this stuff. These short-chain fats are highly energetic and very underappreciated, by the way. They can be used as supplements or as food. This is why apple cider vinegar is such a powerful food, I guess you'd say, or condiment, because it's a way of giving the body these high-energy, short-chain fatty acids in the form of acetic acid. Now, there's other things in apple cider vinegar, to be sure, but a lot of the multifunctionality that's associated with apple cider vinegar is a result of this acetic acid, which is involved in energy production. Oxaloacetate is a more refined version, I guess you could say, of acetic acid, and that makes it even more refined and targeted, or it gives it an ability to target, I should say, the energy production chemistry inside a cell, specifically inside one of the little substructures inside a cell. They call them suborganelles, these little tiny structures. It's cool enough that you have a cell that's got 1/100th the size of a head of a pin that can do all the things it does. But within a cell, you've got hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of little subcellular organs, organelles they call them. They do things. They have their own specific structures within the structure called a cell. That, to me, is just so mind-blowing. And one of those structures is something called the mitochondria, which everybody, well, not everybody, but you guys have probably heard of it, because the mitochondria have been in the news. The mitochondria, they're known as the energy furnaces of a cell. And keeping in mind that aging and illness involve some aspect of energy deficits, anything you could do to support the health of the mitochondria and thereby support energy production is going to be in your interest. And this is where OAA comes in. And this is what makes OAA so multifunctional, because it's working at this level of energy, cell energy. So OAA can mitigate the effects from everything from neurological diseases like multiple sclerosis and myasthenia gravis, to strokes, to traumatic brain injury, to cancer, to just plain old aging. And that all of this is about its ability, OAA's ability, to get into these incredible, miraculous little structures called the mitochondria, which have become, as I say, one of the fashionable aspects of anti-aging and anti-disease. There's a cell can have like hundreds to thousands of these little mitochondria inside them, and mitochondrial dysfunction, mitochondrial breakdown as a cause of disease and aging is like a fad among, anyway, a certain group of alternative practitioners, as well as for some of the more forward-thinking representatives of the more orthodox, conventional, mainstream medical model are getting hip to this idea that working on the mitochondria can be really helpful. And you've got all kinds of supplements now that are being recommended for mitochondrial supports, they call it, whether it's from a chiropractor or an alternative practitioner or from a medical doctor. The B complex is probably the most important of your nutrients for mitochondria. This is why the B complex are said to be your energy vitamins. You may have heard that. The B complex are your energy vitamins. Well, it's the reason they say they're your energy vitamins is because they are part of the machinery of energy production. The B vitamins are the raw materials, or they carry the raw materials. I won't get into too much chemistry here, but it's kind of cool. They carry the raw materials of energy production, the B vitamins, especially vitamins B1 and B2. Vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, these are other vitamins that play roles in energy production. So you don't hear about vitamin C being an energy production vitamin, but it most certainly is. And that's all. Anytime something, as I was saying before, anytime something works at this fundamental level of energy production, it's going to give you multiple benefits. This is why vitamin C has so many darn benefits. Vitamin D is the same way. Vitamin D has almost every day you read about another thing that vitamin D does to support health. Well, it's because it's working at this fundamental level, the level of the membrane, the level of the mitochondria, at least partially. Vitamin E is the same way. Magnesium, calcium, phosphate, creatine. You could probably heard of creatine. Creatine is also involved in supporting the health of the mitochondria and energy production. Carnitine, coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10, by the way, is one of those really important non-essential nutrients that is suppressed by statin drugs. And coenzyme Q10, because it's so important in energy, that's its role. It plays a role inside the mitochondria and energy production. That's why it's so important for the heart and the brain. Anytime something's involved in energy production, heart and the brain and the nervous system, I should say, are going to benefit the most. And then probably the immune system and the skin and maybe the digestive system. Those are your fastest moving parts of the body. So coenzyme Q10, vitamin C, the B complex, magnesium, calcium, they work at the level of the heart, they work at the level of the brain, and also the skin and the immune system, because they're working with the energy production the energy production machinery, and this energy production machinery has its most prominent effects at the parts of the body that use the most energy, and that's the brain and the immune system, and the skin and the heart, the circulatory system. And that's why coenzyme Q10 is so important for the heart and the circulatory system. And ironically, that's the nutrient that is most suppressed by your statin drugs, which purport to be good for your heart and for your circulatory system. Which means if you're on a statin drug, make sure you're taking coenzyme Q10. And I'd be taking 100 to 200 milligrams a day, personally. I do take 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams a day of coenzyme Q10 in its ubiquinol form, ubiquinol form, which is the more powerful form of coenzyme Q10. All right, we're going to take a break and come back with your calls. 844-236-6010 is our number. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. Okay, we are are back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben, and our number today, 844-236-6010. We'll get your calls here in this segment. We've got Dr. Brian Wilson coming on, and at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk about his book, John Fetzer and the Quest for the New Age. John Fetzer was a visionary who, very early on, at the turn of the in the early part of the 20th century, realized that there's more to life than meets the eye. The myth of materialism, which modern medicine is stuck in. The myth of materialism, this idea that the physical, what we see with our physical senses and our physical detection mechanisms, is all there is, and that's why modern medicine poo-poos the idea that the mind transcends matter, is ahead of matter. It's where we get the placebo effect. So medicine still can't explain the placebo effect. That's the one. That's the fly in the ointment. The idea that you can control your symptomology by just your thoughts to so powerfully and so dramatically that they have to weed out this effect, this mind over physical matter effect, with when they do tests for drugs, because they know a certain amount of people, if they tell them what the drug is, a certain amount of people are going to get the benefit just by knowing what the drug is. So they have to do a double-blind study to filter that out. Anyway, we're going to talk to Brian Wilson about John Fetzer at the bottom of the hour and take your phone calls. This segment, 844-236-6010. Let's go to Raquel in Fort Worth, Texas. Good morning, Raquel.
Hello, Dr. Ben. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Good morning. What's going on?
Well, I had a quadruple 2 weeks ago because I stopped taking my diabetic medicine. I stopped taking my minerals. I stopped exercising. I just quit.
When was this?
So now
when did you quit? When did you quit?
It took about 3 months, but I guess I had already had 2 stents, and I started noticing the lack of breath, shortness.
You sound young. You sound young, Raquel.
I'm 65.
6'5"?
65, yes.
65. Well, you're still pretty young for all that to be going on. That shouldn't be happening. So we got so here's what you got to do, okay? You've had a quadruple bypass. Did you ever have a baby? Have you had a baby or a kid? You know what I'm saying? Or your mom?
Yeah, he's 25.
Okay, well, that's all right. You had a baby, and you nurtured a baby, and you raised you gave birth to a baby, and raised your baby. So you know what it's like to have a baby. So now you have another baby. You know what that other baby is?
My health?
Your body.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to regard your body. You got to regard your body as a baby that's been through the war. Are you with me?
Got it, yes.
Okay, good. So it's been going on for a while, but it's come to a head, and now the baby's ultra traumatized. So you got to be loving the baby. Now, I say that as a kind of an umbrella concept, because I'm going to give you a lot of the little details now, but I want that to be the overriding concept. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now, what does that mean? How does that look? What does that look like and this is true for anybody who's been through anything dramatic like this, or anybody who's sick, or anybody really. Our bodies are our babies, but yours is just a baby. Sometimes our babies are ultra traumatized, so we got to do it with extra attention. So the umbrella idea is we're going to love the baby. How do you do it? It's very simple. You keep the bad things out and you put the good things in. Okay? Mm-hmm. The bad things are going to be sugar for the rest. You got to change the way you eat the rest of your life. Okay? You got a good 40, 50, maybe 50 years if you do it right to go. So now for the rest of your life, as they say, this is the first day of the rest of your life, right? Yeah. Sugar, processed food in general. You got to go calorie restriction the rest of your life. Okay? You got to eat as little as possible. Now, I didn't say not get nourishment. Just don't make the mistake, which doctors make very often and regular people as well, of assuming that calories are nutrition. There's a distinction between calories and nutrition. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got to stop eating foods that are mostly calorie and start eating foods that have a lot more nutritional value to them and eat a lot less of them. Seaweed is going to be one of your most important foods. Vegetable juices, get a Vitamix, do vegetable juices. Soups, bone soup especially, and vegetable soup for that matter. Become like, get into cooking and start doing all that. Get a Vitamix for sure, and then get on the Healthy Start Pack and start sipping on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. I'd be using the Ultimate Niacin, Ultimate Selenium, anything you could do for gut health, the Ultimate Nightly Essence probiotics, fermented foods, from kimchi, that kind of thing. Not so much fermented dairy, but fermented veggies. Ultimate Niacin, Ultimate Selenium, Fucoid Z, Ultimate Enzymes with your meals, glucogel caps. ultimate enzymes.
Can I do the liquid glucose gel?
It's not as good, but you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
It's
just that I'm limited on my strength right now.
So what do you mean? Why would the liquid be different?
Because I can just put everything together, my Tangy, my Z-Radical.
I see what you're saying. Well, I see what you're saying. Well, it's up to you how you do it, but I'm just giving you some ideas here. Also, go get some extra coenzyme Q10, which we've just talked about. There's two forms, ubiquinol. I was saying this before we went to break. Ubiquinol and ubiquinone. The OL is a little bit more, probably a little bit more effective. It's definitely more expensive, though. So either one, 100 to 200 milligrams a day. Magnesium. Get a book called The Sinatra Solution and read it.
Is that with a C or the S?
S as in Sam, I as in Igloo, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, T as in Tom, R as in Randy, A as in Apple. Sinatra, like Frank Sinatra Solution. Okay. And then make sure you're jumping up and down a little bit on a rebounder. Move your lymphatic system. Move your whole circulatory system. Not just walk. I mean, you may have to start off with walking around the block, but you want to be a little bit more vigorous. Body work, yoga. All that's a stretching every day. Mental and emotional, don't forget those. I mean, for that to be happening, for this breakdown to have been happening at the age of 65, there must have been some stuff going on for a long time, right?
Okay, so
you didn't just wake up one day and have to have a quadruple bypass. Right? So this is the kind of stuff you got to have a whole new lifestyle. You got to have an attitude that you're going to take an attitude that you're going to start a whole new lifestyle.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I think I was going out to eat too much, eating all the wrong food.
All of that. You can no longer do that. You're going to get to sit there at the restaurant and watch everybody eat while you have a carrot. I mean, I'm laughing. It's going to be hard, but think of the upside.
I'm already there because I nearly lost all my appetite.
That's funny how the body. It's funny how the body does that. By the way, it'll turn off your appetite when it has to. When it knows that it's got to do some work, like correcting itself and calming down, it'll shut down your appetite. Go ahead.
Can I continue to eat my eggs over medium?
You'll have to see how you do. You'll have to see how you do and stop eating when you're no longer hungry. You're going to develop body sensory acuity about your body. You're going to develop an ability to listen to your body, and that's one of the things that happens when we get sick. I want to get one more call in. I hope I helped you out, Raquel. God bless you, and good luck with everything. Let's get Herman on real quick if we can. Herman, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Buddy, I might have to let you go here, but ask your question real quick. Let's see if we can do it quickly.
Yes, sir. Quick question regarding my mom who has ascites, big belly,
okay, yes.
on the legs.
Okay, that's a liver issue. That's a liver condition, and you got to work on the digestive system primarily from the liver. However, I will tell you, when that swelling takes place and the fluid accumulation in the belly takes place, there's usually been a lot of stuff going on. Is she drinking a lot of alcohol or any alcohol?
No alcohol.
Okay, because a lot of times it's associated with alcohol. It's a sign of some severe liver problems. Liver is a digestive organ. Never forget that the liver is a digestive organ, among other things, so focus on the gut, especially with gut bacteria. All right, Herman, I apologize. We're out of time. We're going to get to Dr. Brian Wilson when we come back from our break. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back right after this. Okay, we are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben, and thank you for being here. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 on our archive pages at brightsideben.com and benfuchsarchives.com. Blog posts, news stories at brightsideben.com, videos, and lots of good health information and the longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com. And don't forget to check out our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. I've been formulating skin health products now for 35 years, and I have learned a thing or two about how you do it, and the truth is the culmination of everything I know about how you create powerful, effective, healing skin health products. Go to truthtreatments.com. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, or anything your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our Truth Treatment products. Truthtreatments.com. Truthtreatments.com. Okay, I am very happy to have our next guest on, Brian Wilson. Dr. Brian Wilson is a professor of American religious history at Western Michigan University, and he has written a very interesting and fascinating book about a guy who I'd heard of, but I didn't know everything that this guy talked about. And he's a pretty amazing visionary, John E. Fetzer, owner of the Detroit Tigers and a media magnate, a very wealthy man, and one of the early proponents of the idea that there's an invisible world that has a major effect on the visible world. That's what I consider to be spirituality, of course, and we've done it from a theological standpoint and a more mystical standpoint, but John E. Fetzer was more about the science of it, and a lot of folks who came along at the turn of the 20th century were talking about these kinds of ideas, and he was sort of right in line with guys like Napoleon Hill and Mary Baker Eddy, these people who in the early 1920s started to get at the idea that there was a divine force that was behind how the physical body and how the physical world showed up. Dr. Wilson, great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, so real quick, and then we'll get to your book and books, actually. You're a professor of American religious history, and of all the things to study in American religious history, which has got like a pretty storied past, you picked John E. Fetzer, who is way out there. Why? And also, also your other book on John Harvey Kellogg. Also, these people who were way on the fringes of the mainstream at the time. What made you do that?
Well, my specialty in American religious history is new religious movements and new spiritual movements. So these guys were right up my alley. And the other thing I'm really interested in is how do people put together their worldviews? How do the individuals basically use kind of the elements out there to come up with something that's coherent and works for them? And so for John Harvey Kellogg, it was great because he has a huge documentary record. So it was a fascinating kind of trip to put together the evolution of his worldview. And the same thing with John Fetzer. He left behind a huge paper trail, which for me as a professor, as an academic, just made it a lot of fun to basically follow him through his life, his long life, and see his evolving spirituality.
I love what you say about this worldview. It's kind of like everybody has a worldview, but it's on a continuum, like of memes and of mainstream dogma and orthodoxy. And on the other end of the continuum is John Fetzer and visionaries. And most people fall somewhere in that continuum, although the vast majority of people are closer to the orthodox meme belief system kind of thing that they're given. Like we believe what we're given at birth, and then every once in a while you run into a great person like Kellogg or Fetzer. Is that kind of, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's very comfortable to stay in whatever tradition we've been born in or whatever tradition the society basically approves of. But both Kellogg and Fetzer, well, they have something interesting in common. They were both Seventh-day Adventists. John Harvey Kellogg was born into the tradition, and his father was actually one of the first Seventh-day Adventists in Michigan. And John Fetzer, his mother, converted to Seventh-day Adventism when he was a teenager, and he basically followed her into the church. But at a certain point, both men, well, Kellogg was actually kicked out of the church. He was disfellowshipped. And John Fetzer made the choice to leave the church and to begin these kinds of, well, in John Fetzer's case, a metaphysical search, a search among the wide variety of metaphysical traditions for a new worldview that would really make more sense to him than the kind of doctrinaire and dogmatic Christianity he had come out of.
Let me ask a couple questions and then answer what you can, and we may have to take a break and we'll just continue. First of all, what exactly is Seventh-day Adventism, and why does it lend itself to this kind of forward thinking? I know there's certain things about how they eat and I know some of the things that they do, but what is it about what are they and what is it about them that leads them to produce these kinds of visionary folks? And then also I want to talk about exactly, I know John E. Fetzer talked a lot about the intelligence in the body and the intelligence in a cell, but how exactly does that relate to health? And in this way, how are Kellogg and Fetzer in terms of their health views aligned? But first about Seventh-day Adventists. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the Seventh-day Adventist tradition actually began in Michigan, and it came out of an earlier movement called Millerism. A man named William Miller had predicted the end of the world, so it's an apocalyptic tradition that's looking for the second coming of Jesus and the creation of, the millennial kingdom, 1,000 years of peace and prosperity on earth. Seventh-day Adventism really coalesced around the prophecies called testimonies of a visionary named Ellen G. White, who received hundreds of testimonies, prophecies from God. And interestingly, it aligned itself with a variety of kind of alternative health movements during the 19th century, because Ellen G. White basically had it revealed to her that God wanted human beings to look after their bodies as well as their souls. So there developed this really interesting connection between body and soul, and the idea that it was very difficult to have a pure soul in an impure body.
I see.
And Kellogg took that even farther. He kind of turned it on its head and basically said, you need to start with a body. If you want a pure soul, you need to start with a pure body. And
was this a radical idea back then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely for Seventh-day Adventism, which continues. I mean, it's a lot of the traditional kind of ideas that come out of denominational Christianity. But Kellogg basically took this farther. And instead of this radical notion that God basically is completely separate from the world, he believes that God basically permeated the world, emanated into the world. So there's an intimate connection between everything that is creation and God himself. And, of course, this is true in the human body as well.
Did Fetzer take this to a new level because of our understandings of radio and radio waves that came after Kellogg? Do you think he took it to a new level?
Yes, I think so. He was fascinated in his early days with the idea that you could pull these energies out of the air and then turn them into voice and music.
Like Tesla. Tesla said the same thing.
Well, he was Fetzer was an early reader of Tesla's articles and interviews, and he was very influenced by Tesla.
I can see that, because a lot of his ideas Tesla would definitely agree with, this idea that there was an energy field that we could tap into. And that's a very powerful there's a religious metaphor, you could say, for that, or you could say that's a metaphor for the religious truth. Either way, I suppose you could look at it. This idea that there's an energy we can tap into, which is really important when it comes to health and something we talk about on this program a lot. Hey, we got to take a break, Dr. Wilson. When we come back, I want to talk more specifically about John E. Fetzer and his views on health, okay?
Great.
All right, good. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We're talking to Brian C. Okay, we are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're talking to Dr. Brian C. Wilson about John E. Fetzer and his Dr. Wilson's book, John E. Fetzer and the Quest for the New Age. John E. Fetzer was John E. Fetzer, F-E-T-Z-E-R, was a media magnate as well as a health, or I guess you could say theologian or religious visionary. I'm not even sure what would you call John E. Fetzer? Visionary? I would say
he's a visionary, a spiritual visionary.
Spiritual visionary.
One of his ideas was this, he always talked about freedom of the spirit, so everybody should be free to follow their own spiritual path.
I love it. He'd be listening to The Bright Side. We talk about this stuff all the time. The idea of divine intelligence and listening to your body, trusting your own intuition. I love the idea. It's so liberating to me, this idea that we can access this divine force, and we all have a portal to this divine force that we can become one with and communicate with. And that is not just New Age, but it's old age too. Isn't that been a truth that's run throughout religion, this idea that God is something that we can have access to?
Yes, it's always kind of a theme that goes through almost all the world's religions, that at some level, God as either a person or as an energy is available to human beings, and that access to that is tremendously important for health and wealth and prosperity.
It's not just airy-fairy. It has a practical, fundamental, a real life aspect to it. It can help you have just a happy life and get through the inevitable vicissitudes and ups and downs that life has. If you have that kind of resting in a godly force of some kind.
Well, that's certainly the case with John Fetzer, because late in life he had a number of health problems, but he always maintained a very positive attitude, and I think it's
Isn't that interesting?
Of this, his spiritual outlook.
Now, how did he connect health with this more kind of abstract divine intelligence? How did he bring those two together?
Well, ultimately, he felt everything in the universe was spirit, and he always talked about spirit using the metaphor of energy, and I think that's because of his radio days. And so energy, of course, is always in motion, always fluid, and always available, never destroyed, converting itself into various things existing at higher or lower frequencies. So the human body, Fetzer believed, was just simply one form of energy at a certain level of vibration. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and in order to basically access the kind of life-giving or health-giving energies, you simply had to get your body, and typically your body and mind, in harmony with these energies.
Who was he in line with? What other thinkers of the day? Now, when he was talking about this stuff, that was sort of in vogue. It was still visionary and advanced, but there was a certain fashion to this kind of stuff in the early 1920s, no? Mm-hmm.
Well, he got very interested. When he left Seventh-day Adventism, the first place he went was a spiritualist camp called Camp Chesterfield in Indiana. And there he met spiritualist mediums and psychic healers of all kinds, and that's where he first really got exposed to all these kinds of ideas. And from there, he branched out and got interested in all sorts of metaphysical movements like Theosophy and Hermeticism and Rosicrucianism, but also the kind of mind over matter new thought movement that's been tremendously popular in the United States since the 19th century.
Did he know Edgar Cayce?
Well, he was fascinated by Edgar Cayce. Never had a chance to meet the man before he died. But he really enjoyed, there was two things. Edgar Cayce gave hundreds of readings over his lifetime, hundreds of prophecies, essentially. And they tended to fall into certain themes. And the two themes that John Fetzer was really fascinated by was Edgar Cayce on Atlantis and Edgar Cayce on health. And in fact, in the 1980s, after John Fetzer, he started to liquidate his businesses in order to endow a foundation that would become the Fetzer Institute. One of the projects the Fetzer Institute invested in was health research at the ARE Clinic, the Association for Research and Enlightenment Clinic, which was an Edgar Cayce outfit in Arizona. And so there's a direct connection between Fetzer and the health readings of Edgar Cayce.
So would you say that one of Edgar Cayce's main ideas was this idea that of divine connection, of a certain way that we can connect with God through our own bodies or through our own psyches?
Yes. It's always this idea of having mind, body, and spirit in harmony. And once you do that, the energies just naturally flow.
Is that a theme? Would you say that's Edgar Cayce's theme, having mind, body, and spirit?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that how he said? So how do you do that? How do you have mind, body, and spirit in harmony? What does that mean?
Well, there's a variety of different ways you can do it. I mean, part of it is intellectual, and just simply understanding a certain way that the universe is put together, and Fetzer was fascinated by that. Part of it is practice, and Fetzer was very interested, especially later in life, with meditation, various forms of meditation.
Was he a meditator?
Well, he did. Late in life, he decided he'd been talking about meditation for years, and then finally he actually started. And his first tradition was transcendental meditation, TM. And he was so
that was like the 70s. That was in the
Yep.
1970s, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. He was friends with Maharishi Yogi. Basically advised him on media and how to get the word out about TM.
Oh, wow.
And one of the interesting things that John Fetzer did, he was so taken with TM and the kind of effects it had on him that he introduced it to the Detroit Tigers in the 1974 spring training season. Yeah.
How'd they do that year?
Well, not too well.
Okay.
But a number of the players, at least 3 or 4, continued to practice transcendental meditation for years after that.
Do you know anything about TM?
Just the outlines of the history. I've never actually practiced it myself.
But you know the history of it? Mm-hmm. It's an interesting history. A lot of high-powered people do it.
Yes, and I think the interesting thing about transcendental meditation, one of the reasons why it's been so popular in the West, is because it's a traditional Hindu practice, and yet the Maharishi Yogi
He westernized it
and made it almost a secular practice.
Yeah, so and it is a secular practice. Meditation doesn't, people have the wrong idea about meditation. It's a power tool to focus the mind. It's not just religious, right?
Well, it depends on where you want to take it. Yeah,
that's exactly right. It depends on where. It's like the mind itself. It depends on where you want to take it, and it's sort of a mind training. And the Seattle Seahawks famously did it. The year they still do it, I think. The year they did the Super Bowl, Phil Jackson. You know, a lot of athletes do it, and a lot of high-powered corporate folks do it. This has been a really fast little segment here. Hey, real quickly, do you know about Walter Russell?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you might want to look into Walter Russell. He was along the same lines as Fetzer, and he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant inventor and visionary as well. And he talked about light and energy back around the same time that Fetzer was doing his work. How did he get into baseball, of all things?
Well, Fetzer had been fascinated by baseball. He loved baseball. He grew up in the Midwest. He was a Detroit Tigers fan since he was a kid. And then in the 50s, it became simply a business proposition. He put together a syndicate of 11 other businessmen, and they bought the Detroit Tigers. And then over the years, until 1961, basically Fetzer bought out his partners until he became the sole owner.
Hey, was he like a millionaire, billionaire type of, like, how wealthy was he?
In the millions. I'm not sure exactly how large his fortune got before he passed away.
He wasn't like a billionaire, though.
No.
Ridiculous money. Okay, got it. So he was just he just had enough money to be able to indulge, to do whatever he wanted to do, indulge in all of these great ideas. And it's, people can sit on their, they don't have to want to help change the world. They don't have to want to save the world or help save humanity or make the world a better place when they're wealthy like that. So it's always cool to see that somebody who didn't have to do it actually went out and kind of spread the word, so to speak. All right. Well, thank you so much. How do folks get your book, Dr. Wilson?
Well, it's available on Amazon.com, and BarnesandNoble.com is both a hardback and there's an e-version of it.
You have a Kindle version?
Kindle version. And if people are interested, they can also learn more about the Fetzer Institute at Fetzer.org. And there's another website, InfinitePotential.com. And if they go there, they can get a free PDF of the preface and first chapter of the book.
Say that one more time, that last website, Infinite Potential?
Infinite Potential.
And the first one?
Fetzer.org.
Okay, Fetzer.org, InfinitePotential.com. Dr. Brian Wilson, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful half hour talking about Johnny Fetzer. Good luck with the book.
Thank you.
And perhaps we'll talk again sometime soon. All right, that's it for The Bright Side. Thanks for listening. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Check out our websites, brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com for the longevity products. Truth Skin Health products are available at truthtreatments.com. We will talk to you later, folks. Bye for now.